Welcome to Soul Stories, where every tale touches the heart, inspires the mind, and stays with the soul. The winter storm hit the small U.S. town of Ridgefield harder than anyone expected. By late evening, snow was falling so heavily that it looked like white curtains sweeping across the streets. Wind slammed against rooftops, rattling windows, and bending the tall street lights back and forth like they were made of paper. And then, without warning, everything plunged into darkness. One by one, houses lost power, streetlights blinked out, heaters shut down, phones drained quickly as people tried calling relatives, only to realize that the entire communication network had crashed along with the power grid. Families wrapped themselves in blankets, listening only to the howl of the storm and the eerie silence that followed. By midnight, the engineering team gathered at the emergency control station. They inspected the damaged grid diagrams, studied the broken transformers, and analyzed reports coming in from different parts of town. Their verdict was grim. 3 days. That's the minimum it will take to fix this mess. 3 days without heat. 3 days without communication. 3 days in a freezing storm that continued to grow worse. Panic spread quickly. Elderly residents needed medical support. Children were shivering. The local hospital was running on backup generators. That wouldn't last for long. The entire town felt trapped, powerless in every sense of the word. But in a small house near the edge of town, Emily Carter stared at the blackout through her frosted window with a different kind of intensity. At just 24, she was known locally as the girl who could fix anything. She had taught herself everything about electronics, wiring, and grid systems by watching tutorials, repairing discarded devices, and studying manuals that most people couldn't understand. Emily listened to the engineer's announcement on a battery-powered radio. 3 days. She refused to accept it. She knew the town didn't have 3 days. She knew the cold wouldn't wait. And deep down she felt something stronger, a responsibility to try. She grabbed her toolkit, slipped on a thick jacket, and stepped out into the storm. Her breath turned into mist, and snowflakes stung her face, but she kept moving. Emily believed something the engineers had overlooked. There had to be a way. There always is, you just have to see it. And with that thought, she headed toward the emergency station, ready to volunteer for a challenge no one else dared to face. The wind had slowed slightly by the time Emily reached the emergency control center, but the air still crackled with urgency. Inside, engineers moved frantically between tables cluttered with blueprints, circuit maps, and flickering monitors powered by a weak generator. The atmosphere was thick, not just with cold, but with fear of failure. As Emily pushed open the heavy metal door, several heads turned. She brushed the snow off her jacket and approached the chief engineer, a stern man named Harris, who had deep lines on his forehead from hours of stress. "I want to help," Emily said plainly. Harris blinked, confused. "You're Emily, right? The repair girl? Look, this isn't about fixing radios or kitchen appliances. The entire grid is unstable. This is dangerous." "I know," she replied calmly. "That's why I'm here." A few engineers shed doubtful looks. One whispered, "She's not certified." Another added, "We can't risk an amateur messing with a collapsed grid." Emily didn't argue. She stepped closer to the table and studied the chaotic diagrams lying open. She recognized broken loops, melted conductors, and a severe transformer, failure near the northern sector. Her eyes scanned each line with razor-sharp focus. "I've seen this pattern before," she murmured. Harris raised an eyebrow. "Impossible. This system is outdated and barely documented." Emily ignored the remark. "Your backup relays aren't responding because the main switching node is frozen in bypass mode. If you reroute power from the microstation here," she tapped a point on the map, "you'll stabilize the south grid temporarily. Then you can focus on repairing the main relay." The room went silent. One of the senior engineers, a woman named Donovan, leaned in. That actually makes sense." Harris hesitated. Allowing an untrained local girl into the center of their operation went against every rule. But there was something about Emily's confidence, not reckless, but firm, methodical, almost professional, that made him pause. "You're sure about this?" he finally asked. Emily met his eyes. 100%. The chief sighed. "Fine, but you follow our safety instructions, and you don't touch anything unless I say so." A small smile flickered across her face. "Understood." Within minutes, Emily was inside the operations room. She placed her gloves on the desk, pulled her hair back, and leaned over the detailed electrical grid layout. Her fingers traced each failed circuit, each damaged node, her mind working faster than anyone in the room. For the first time that night, hope quietly entered the building. By 2 a.m., the storm had reached its peak. Snowflakes whipped through the air like shards of glass, and the wind screamed against the metal structures of Ridgefield's power grid. Most people were huddled inside their dark homes, wrapped in coats and blankets, watching the storm from fogged windows. But every pair of eyes was drawn toward one place. Asterisk, the frozen transmission tower on the hill, where a single figure was climbing in the brutal night. That figure was Emily. Her gloves were stiff from cold, her breath turning into thick clouds, and every step on the icy ladder felt like stepping onto a glass edge. The storm didn't just push against her, it tried to knock her off. The metal rung beneath her boots vibrated with the force of the wind, but Emily kept climbing. Below her, the emergency crew stood in anxious silence. They couldn't help her now. The tower was too unstable for more than one person, and the relay station too dangerous for inexperienced hands. The entire town was holding its breath. Asterisk, when she reached the top platform, Emily crouched low to keep from being blown back. Her tools clinked against the metal as she unzipped her kit with numb fingers. The main relay, the heart of the grid, was completely destroyed, a blackened mess of fried circuits and melted components. Any normal engineer would have turned back. But Emily wasn't normal. Asterisk, she pulled out a small device she had built months earlier, something she once called a backup brain for failing circuits. It had never been tested on something this large. It wasn't meant to bypass an entire town's power grid. Asterisks, but tonight, it was all they had. Asterisk. Emily attached the device to the shattered relay housing and connected 3 manual leads. Sparks flew. The wind nearly snatched the device from her hands. Her fingers stung as metal bit into her skin. She whispered to herself, Asterisk, come on, work with me. Asterisk. Then she began the manual reboot, a sequence of rapid switches, resets she had memorized from the tangled grid diagrams. It was a technique she invented after years of studying old systems and thinking differently from everyone else. Asterisks down below. People saw a faint flicker, then another, and suddenly, asterisk, a blinding surge of light burst across the town. Asterisk street glowed, houses brightened, the hospital powered up, generators clicked off, and cheers erupted like fireworks through the snowy air. Some people cried, others shouted Emily's name. Phones lit up as residents recorded the miracle. Asterisk on top the tower, Emily allowed herself one small breath of relief. Asterisk, she had done what experts said was impossible. Asterisk, by morning, the storm had finally weakened, leaving Ridgefield covered in glittering sheets of snow. But something else shone even brighter than the winter sunrise, the story of what Emily Carter had done. Asterisk, as people woke to warm homes, humming, appliances, and glowing heaters, their phones buzzed with messages, notifications, and videos from the night before. Clips showing the exact moment the town lit up were posted everywhere. Facebook groups, TikTok feeds, YouTube channels. One neighbor had captured the silhouette of Emily on the tower just seconds before the lights returned. Another had recorded the crowd cheering at the control center. Asterisk, within hours, the hashtags began flooding social media. Asterisk, hashtag genius in the storm. Hashtag Emily saved Ridgefield. Hashtag real life hero. Asterisk, national news channels picked it up next. Morning shows replayed her brave climb again and again, analyzing how a self-taught technician accomplished what trained engineers said couldn't be done in under 3 days. Reporters interviewed local residents who spoke with pride and awe. Asterisk, she didn't hesitate. One man said, Asterisk, that girl saved lives. Another added, Asterisk, she's not just smart, she's fearless, said the hospital nurse whose patients depended on restored power. Asterisk, Emily watched some of the broadcasts from a corner seat in the emergency control center, wrapped in a thermal blanket and sipping a hot drink someone handed her. She didn't look like the hero the world was talking about, just a young woman who was exhausted, frostbitten, and still processing everything that happened. Asterisk, Harris, the chief engineer who had doubted her the night before, walked over slowly. He cleared his throat, looking awkward for someone usually so stern. Asterisk, you proved all of us wrong, he admitted. And I'm proud you did. Asterisk, Emily smiled faintly. I wasn't trying to prove anything. Asterisk, then why'd you do it? He asked. Asterisk, she looked out the window at families stepping outside, greeting neighbors, checking on loved ones, all safe and warm because the lights were on again. Asterisk, when people need help, she said softly, you don't wait, you step up. Asterisk, those 10 words ended up becoming the quote of the day, repeated by anchors, reshared by millions, and printed on headlines. But Emily didn't care about going viral or becoming a national topic. Fame wasn't the reason. She risked her life on a frozen tower. She simply believed in doing the right thing. And that's why even long after the storm ended and the world moved on, Asterisk, people kept talking about Emily Carter, the girl who did the impossible.